Does anyone have a question? I have just a few things that I need to talk about. The first one is, people have a tendency of just kind of leaving these classes. I don't know their reasoning and why they do, but in the middle of it, people just turn their cameras off. And this is a very big problem because every time somebody does that, the entire grouping of pictures changes. And I'm working with somebody, and suddenly they're in the middle here, and they're on the other end of the spectrum there. And it just throws the whole class out of whack. So, what I'm really hoping that people do is if you're going to attend this class, make sure, here's somebody who's coming at the end, make sure that you have time allotted to stay for the entire class. If you came to an in-person class, you're not going to get up in the middle of it and leave. But this is very different here, because people are sitting in their living rooms, their bedrooms, their offices, and all over the world. And it really, people think, well, I can just get up and leave. But it disrupts the entire meditation when people do that. So I'm asking for a favor. If you want to attend the class, and I think every one of you does, allot the time, the amount of time it takes for this class. I mean, usually the class with the talks and everything, this particular class is about an hour, maybe 5 minutes earlier, 5 minutes later, but something of that nature. Because I don't want to have to repeat it again, but every time that camera goes off, people just bounce all over my screen and I don't know where they are anymore. And I even forget who I worked with. I don't have a chart here checking off who I'm working with, and it makes it difficult for me to do the entire group. And I really think every single one of you are here in order to get the energy, the teachings, what this class is all about. So please, try to have discipline. And I know sometimes the Wi-Fi goes off and all that stuff, but there are people that do it all the time. And I think it's just not really good. And it's something that doesn't show respect for the other people in the class. Second thing is that make sure that when you come to the class, you're well lit. Like right now, I can barely see you, Paul. It's so dark there. So make sure that you're well lit, and you have a light. Don't have the window behind you because that will just make you into a shadow. Make sure the light is coming from the right directions so that you can be seen and it's possible for me to work with you in the meditation. Okay, that just empties my complaint department. Now, does anybody have a question they would like to ask?
Stuart, I have a question. This is Derek.
Yes, Derek.
And also I heard what you said. I'm sorry. I've done that too. Um, so I won't do that again. With all that's going on, I mean, around me and in my life, I can feel in my heart love and happiness. And I wouldn't, even though I really need $200,000, I wouldn't sell it for 1 million. But it just feels sometimes, entitled and selfish of me to ask demand of myself to make more money, but I really feel like that's what I need to do in my life. Could you talk about that?
There's nothing wrong with that, Derek. When I started out in business in Texas, I mean, this is really a true story. I mean, I had $30 to my name. $30 I had. And I knew I had to start generating money to run the ashram. There were 20 people living in a house there. We needed to eat. And and it was unbelievable. I was driving one day in the country and I met a farmer, told me he had 5 barn loads of old furniture he wants to sell. Just wants to get rid of it. He'll take $30 for it. I mean, that's how I started off. You understand? And then I was selling things for $10 and $15 and $30 and winding up when I finally moved back to New York and opened that Asian art business. After a year or two, I'm selling to the biggest, wealthiest collectors in the world. And there was nothing wrong with the money because I needed it to support my life. I was paying $12,000 to $15,000 a month just for that loft where we had the ashram. So there's nothing wrong with that, as long as it doesn't become greed, power, your position in life. If it's being used to nurture something, being used to help your family, to help whatever the things are that are important to you, and there's no reason not to generate money. It's just energy, and you will get what you need in order to help support your life. So I can only go for my own life, going from selling things for $5 to selling things for hundreds of thousands of dollars took time just for me to get strong enough to do that without getting swept away in it. Being strong enough to never allowing that to interfere with my spiritual practice, ever. So, yeah, if you need more money, then there's nothing wrong with earning more money. But just make sure that it's being used for the support of the people in your life, and that you're not just using it to get greedy and become the richest guy on the block, and nouveau riche and all that nonsense. So I don't see any problem with that. Money is just energy. And the thing about doing connected to spirit or God, or you will be given in life what you need in order to support yourself and to live in this world. I have always been given what I need. When I needed $38 a month, I was making $80 a month. When I needed 12,000, 15,000 a month, I had to make a lot more money. But if you stay connected through your inner work to higher energy, you will never get into this whole greedy swamp. More, more, I want more. And I used to see that with people in business. All it was about more, more. And there's only so much amount, how much money do you need to get up in the morning and have breakfast and live through the day? You don't need $700 billion to do this. It's madness. That has only to do with ego and self-importance and power. And all of that is just stupidity because one day it goes anyway. One day it's gone. You all die, and what? We become a faint memory, maybe a line in a history book or a faint memory in our families, minds. So it's a two-way thing, Eric. There's nothing wrong with, you know, at the same time, if it becomes greed, it'll suck your life dry. You really begin to worship illusion, and it will suck your life dry. And I hope that's clear because I'm not talking from something I read in a book. I lived through this. This is my life. I was living in New York City with a 4,000 square foot loft. I mean, that was not cheap, with all these people coming. And, I didn't even charge a fee for people to come to my classes, covering all that money every month. And then having to been a father to, 75 people, listening to all their bullshit and trying to help them work their lives out. And, therapists who charge you $200-300 an hour to do what I was doing for nothing. I had to get the capital somewhere. And I went inside myself. And I demanded, send me enough that I don't have to get crazy about money. And I can pay for all my bills. And another thing to this, poverty is no excuse. It really isn't. Because every human being has within inside himself a connection to a higher force of energy. That connection will provide, you know, everything you need to run your life. But you have to open to it. You have to clear the way inside yourself to receive that higher power. It will make sure that you are taken care of, especially if you wind up in service of that higher power. You will get taken care of. I remember once when I was in Texas, I'll never forget this. The story I've told a lot, and it's a great story. I mean, I was the guy running the meditation group in Texas, and the whole group wanted to go up and see Rudy for Thanksgiving, to spend the holiday up with Rudy. And it was going to cost everybody $40 chipping in to pay for the gasoline. I did not have $40. In fact, I didn't have one nickel to my name. And I'll never forget this. It was the morning we were going to leave, and I didn't know what to do. I was embarrassed to tell people I can't afford to chip in for gasoline, and I'm the guru. I should have. And a guy comes up to me on the floor of my house where I had this kind of junky antique shop I was running. And he said, all night I've been thinking about this table, and I know you're going away, and I got to buy this table. He said, how much is the table? I said, it's $40. He gave me $40. I mean, it was God working. And I gave $40 to the guy driving the car, one of my students, and I left. I mean, it took 20 minutes before we went to New York. You will always be given what you need if you're connected to that higher energy. And if you need abundance, it will provide abundance. If you need, it will provide exactly what you need. And there's nothing wrong with abundance as long as it doesn't fill a vacuum inside a human being called greed, power, lording it over other people, being more important than other human beings. Then it's dangerous. Does anyone else have a question they would like to ask? I hope it's clear what I'm talking about, because I don't think a person alive doesn't go through this at some point, unless you're born as a trust fund baby, and you inherit 100 million, and then it turns you into a zombie. You do nothing with your life but sit and drink Coca Locos in the Bahamas, and think you're living in paradise. Does anybody else have a question they would like to ask? Okay, if there are no more questions, then God bless you all. Thank you. Great question, Derek. I didn't expect to talk about this morning, and I never know. That's why I like questions. Things come up that I had no plans on talking about, and they're really remarkable vehicles for all of us to learn something. Because not me talking, it's the energy talking. And they becomes a remarkable vehicle for everybody to learn something. So thanks, and God bless you all. And there'll be meditation on, what is today, Tuesday? This class will be on Thursday at 1 o'clock my time. There's also a class tomorrow evening at 7:30. So have a wonderful day and evening, and God bless you. Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you,
God
Stuart.
bless.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Stuart.
Stuart.
You're welcome.